Welcome to Resilience Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Ostrolenk. This show is about building better humans, institutions, and systems. On the show, I'll be interviewing many different experts from across many different fields, including human optimization, health and fitness, team building, mind-body medicine. In the institutional space, we're looking at different institutions and how we can create new ones, new models and maps, including in medicine, in education, in intelligence community, in law enforcement, in the military, especially in the special operations community. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Today, I'm joined by Marcella Brebaum, founder of Modern Couples, and a leading voice in the evolution of relationships for high-performing individuals and ambitious couples. Marcella is a relationship coach, speaker, and entrepreneur who specializes in helping leaders, founders, and vision-driven couples rewire how they show up in love, communication, and partnership. Her work blends nervous system regulation, emotional intelligence, and high-performance principles to elevate relationships from something that drains energy to something that fuels purpose, growth, and legacy. Through her platform, Modern Couples, her podcast, and her signature programs, she's challenging outdated models of relationships and helping people build what she calls future fit partnerships, ones that are intentional and evolve as the lives they are creating. Marcella, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you, thank you. Feels so good to receive those warm words of welcoming.
Oh, well, it's great to have you on. This has been many, many months in the making. Actually, I think it's probably been a year in the making, to be honest with you. But, obviously, I wanna kinda dive into your conscious coupling and the work that you do literally globally. I
Mhm.
believe you're presently somewhere in Europe right now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I'm German American and I'm living in Portugal. During the lockdown years, I was in Bali. So with that, it's
Yeah.
really everywhere. And really, I noticed how my own multinational, multicultural background is very often attracting also couples that come from all different places. And next to all the challenges that we have just by being humans, there's also, cultural differences, different upbringing, different fears in the world. It's like the challenges, they increase as well as the opportunities that we have as a couple.
I love that. The challenges increase, but so do the opportunities. It's a very
Yes.
kind of Chinese, Taoist approach to things. So what brought you into the field of couples work? I do know you have a previous life in kind of in the business world.
Yeah. So I was working as leadership coach, and in there as agile or systemic coach, you learn so much about how to unite, let's say, an 80 people team and how to embrace cultural differences, languages, preferences, needs, desires. You learn how to do all of that with like big, high performing teams, ideally. And at the same time, in my private life, I was reading a book and it was called Generation Unrelatable. It was a German book in like the early 2000s. And it kind of pinpoint at a few things of like, if you have gone through this in your upbringing, let's say raised by a single parent or, parents always working and social media, this and that, challenges are you are this generation that really has not learned how to relate. And for me, being in this proactive field about learning how to relate and looking at my own CV, I thought, you know what, like, obviously it's clear, like, I want to get this relationship right and I want to find a coach that helps us do this. And in our quest through 5 years, we couldn't really find a coach that was a coach. It was only couples counseling or therapy that we could find, but also really the mindset did not match. It's like just to bring out one example the therapist gave us to turn off the phone after 6 p.m., which is a great advice, but really not how, let's say, this generation is living. And we did not know how that would rescue our relationship or even make us stronger. And from there on, it was an inner process of kind of looking at, wow, there's a niche of couples that are really, wanting to learn these tools and at the same time not finding their answers in traditional couples therapy. Meanwhile, there is the tech industry that throws millions at how to get this right in leaving out a very important part about relationships, but also looking at answers in a world with notifications, internet, and all of that. And so, it was kind of marinating inside of me at that time that maybe I should just branch out. And then years later, a school friend reminded me that actually, as teenager, when you do the assessment of what you want to do in life, I was already pointing at I want to work with couples, but no university path pointed in
Mhm.
that direction. There is no pathway for this, right? Relationships is still one of the most underrepresented skills that is educated or trained for in any field. And yeah, so that was 6 years ago when I started modern couples coaching.
You share in your TED Talk, an experience that you had with a boyfriend, and I
Mhm.
think it's quite formative in this whole process of you becoming a conscious couples coach. Would you be willing to share a little bit about that and how that contributed to your formation?
Yeah, so in my TED Talk, I share what can be considered this moment that led to post traumatic growth in a way. And at that time, I had just launched Modern Couples, and like half a year later, the relationship was just at its end. In the middle of the lockdown, the world was grieving, and I was just thinking, okay, like who am I to teach the world? And little did I know, but really it opened up a whole new portal of for growth and for learning and for questioning. And through the years, I feel like it was a very important learning also to not associate my relationship status with what I do as a profession. Let's say living in a foreign country, I'm learning Portuguese, but not from a native speaker. They don't necessarily know how to explain that to me or how to teach me, a foreign language. And similar in regards to when it comes to love, there is so much inspiration and great input we can get from the couples around us, but also there is a pathway of a life that really went through certain traumas and growth states and asked certain questions and had to go through hardships to support others. And so along the way, I rebuilt myself, I upgraded my tools and skills, but also I had great mentors by my side who really mentors and elders who reminded me of that because yeah, I'm certain my relationship coaching will also change throughout my growth and the more I mature. Really, relationships, it's such a wonderful field of nonstop learning until the end of days, and there is so much we can learn from the elders and from all generations, which is really also the energy within modern couples to always stay on point with the zeitgeist or with the things that are changing and being open to multi-generational learnings and insights.
I love that. I love the evolutionary kind of approach because I find Johnny one note or that I teach this and this is what I stick to because this is what I do. It's unfortunate for anyone who does that or anyone who's on the receiving end of that. So the kind of evolutionary impulse is great. But I love that you're looking at like the elders and the younger generation and kind of integrating it. And the
Mhm.
younger generation piece is really clear because you're like, your therapist told you to turn your phone off at, I think you said 6 o'clock. And you're like, that doesn't fit with, like how we live our lives. So like, oh, how do people actually live their lives might be a good first step to having those kind of conversations. Who
Yes.
some of your mentors and teachers along the way?
Who were my mentors?
Your teachers, like, where did you
Yeah.
learn and study from that stand out?
So, on the academical path, I've learned with the Gottmans to really get some of the world-renowned science background. Annie Lala in the US, but those were kind of like give me frameworks to speak a language. I would say that along the way, like really also in my systemic coaching, there were, let's say, people who are not Insta famous, who are not world renowned. My training was 2 years in Germany, with that was pre-online coaching, like a
Okay.
very down to earth approach to family therapy. And those are people that I'm still in touch with that, let's say, are open to my input on online coaching, or are also now teaching the modern couples framework for an institute that is, grounded for 30 years in established things. And um, some other teachers, and that is really something that has come in the most recent years. Um, so I have in my lineage an uncle and an aunt on both sides of my dad and my mom who are history teachers. And let's say in the last years, it is as if I'm learning through the past generational channels and through. So a very interesting story shared in storytelling here is, and I don't want to go into the details, but I have African American background, which means that eventually it goes back to Africa, a woman who was taken against her will and brought to the Americas. And this idea that there is a woman this idea that you would be taken against your will, go to a foreign country and still manage to bring up a child in that situation. I find it very inspirational in these times that we are currently facing to reconnect kind of with that energy of what sort of resilience and willpower and perspective you need to have in a time of instability, of, you don't know what's happening in the world, what really matters, and how to focus on keeping the family or keeping the tribe together. And so at the moment, I'm really having strong conversations with both my grandmas and tapping into the wisdom of the elder generations on that side.
I love that. I mean, I love that for you, and obviously the benefit that would have for your clients as they gain the wisdom that you would get from those conversations, but also encouraging them to have similar conversations within their own lineage. Is this like human to human conversations? Are your grandmother still alive, or this is more ancestral conversations in dream time or other states of consciousness? Like how are these conversations taking place? If you're willing to share.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so both my grandmas were alive until a month ago. One grandma
Mm.
is still alive, and they are like both of them are in their 90s plus, which is also an amazing inspiration to see and be able to have these conversations with them. And then there is conversations that happen more in the dream state or the lucid states,
Okay.
or yeah, really, actually, it was 3 years ago when I was on a cruise ship from Spain to Brazil. Um, I'm really not the cruise ship kind of person, but there was a conference on the ocean with digital nomads. It was really like that was the what got me there. But there was a moment when I was staring into the ocean, and now this is also a story I share. But I look at the ocean and I see the waves, and all of a sudden, like I get into this lucid state where I blink and I'm looking through different eyes. And this is a moment where I realize like we have been here before, like on the same seaway. We have been here like 100 years ago. And since that moment when I connected the dots of like my 4 times grandmother has been here before and she is talking to me, uh, I connect with her in a very yeah, uncontrolled, but in a very natural pathway. And there have been moments when I would say, like, in the pathway of opening, I think you are in the world of plant medicine. I can say that here, right? So there's also situations in the last 5 years where I will go with the intention of reconnecting with my mother line or with my parents line in ceremony and ask these teachers. So yeah, there is many pathways to connect with love and to learn from not just a book, because I believe the fastest way to learn about relationship skills is really in the wisdom of, observing those that are closest to you. And you can choose from whom you want to learn. But as social beings, we are meant to observe and copy and find our own in that rather than finding all the answers in a strategy book.
100% agree. That's awesome. So you've created a whole program called Modern Couples. Walk us through like what that looks like, who comes to you, and how it works through the process to get them to the other side of whatever the other side might look like, the outcome they seek in working with you.
Yeah, wonderful question. So it started off Modern Couples as a really pioneering approach in regards to we are here to proactively learn. So
Mm.
please, like, join before there is any problem. And obviously, the human nature seeks these things once we have problems. So let's say it is still an 80-20 situation whereby primarily people call me when they have problems. And then oftentimes I have situations where couples come with a problem and then they afterwards or to other people say, go there beforehand. So I would say 20% is really like proactive, newly in love. We want to get this right. And 80% is we have a conflict, we have a gridlock, but we really love each other. So how can we do this? I start with a very time-consuming but deep and relevant assessment where we look at different angles that could influence our coaching. Because my setup is in a way that I have a session with a couple and then a session apart, a
Mm.
session with a couple and apart. I think that's also similar to yours, right? Yes. So the idea is that it's not always 50-50, but there is a way of how to connect with each other and how to take each other along. But sometimes I will shift the focus to one person and work with them on their challenge or on the decision that they need to make, or very often really something from their childhood that still comes up. So we will work on healing your relations, whether that is mother, father, a past lover, a past leader you worked with. That could also be heartbreaking and still leading to mistrust or just not opening up. We have sessions in person, online, virtually. And then I have a university where it's the Modern Couple Universe. You have access to classes. Because what I missed in my years working with couples therapist was, okay, great, here we are working on our conflict. I'm a sponge. I want to absorb knowledge. Give me something to work with, to practice in my day to day. And also I want to reach out when I most need it, much rather than wait until the next session is there. So
Mm.
in the time that we have together, I am available for my couples to send a message, to celebrate the aha moments, because really it happens in the day to day that the realizations come, or that you do. I often speak about going to the relational gym, whereby you work on relational and emotional muscles. And so in our session, or while you're watching something in the university, it's like, okay, so you are taking the supplement, imagine, or so you are doing the weightlifting a little bit, but really what matters is now in your day to day, right? When the conflict or when the challenge or when the decision making comes up, like, are you able to press pause and remember what you trained and actually put that into practice? And so it's a mix of coaching sessions where we really work with the couple on communication and practicing. I will create a custom craft journey through what to watch, or also which breathwork journeys to do, or which really um, strengthening practices to do as a couple. Oftentimes we lack inspiration of like, what are uplifting things that we can do. I think asking questions to explore the love maps has kind of become a thing, but also, to really start by um, developing a vision as a couple. Like, what are we even, let's say, fighting for? Like, we are fighting for a vision that we want to make come true. And it didn't end with marriage, and it didn't end with children. Like, there is so much more that in this lifetime our generation is able to build and to also experience, so that hopefully we can be role models that start inspiring our children at a whole different level when it comes to emotional leadership and maturity. And yeah, in that mix, I would say by the end of a journey, or we know the journey is somewhat complete when they feel like they have their own relationship blueprint and manual, so to say, where they each understand each other and how the mechanics work together. Ideally, they can implement that also with their children or with their parents and understand, the differences and nuances. And from there, I sent them off kind of with the idea that, look, as life continues, for me and for you, there will be new challenges, but now we have a shared language. Now we have, not only the foundations, but a continuous evolving process established. So, reach out when a new life situation comes up. And then usually it's just an on-demand session that we do to just rewire or remember
Yeah.
briefly how to do things.
I love that, and I love it. So some of the things I just heard you say is, like, there's nervous system regulation, there, work on the individual for their personal growth and healing, whatever that might look like. Word I use is called co-regulation. I love, like, "Oh, what can we do together?" That's, to strengthen the bond and have more intimacy, and then being an exemplar to our kids and our parents, like, "Hey, we've learned to do this between us, like, we can take these skills and capacities and bring them into other relationships." Like, spread the love and the wealth. That's beautiful.
That's what I see. Like when I ask myself what's my purpose in life, or what do I want to do, what can I do to make this world a livable world in the future, for me, the family, or the couple and the family, is like the biggest change maker for the neighborhood, the community, the workspace. It's like when you manage to really have a home where energy is uplifting and accelerated, and where you settle up instead of down, then that is an exponential quality improvement for all areas of life. And I feel if that is established, and if that is really your training and learning ground continuously, then you show up as a different leader in your business, and for your health, and for others. And ideally from there we see an impact where it's clear that you want to, let's say, also get politically involved, or make a change in your neighborhood, because there's just so much that you have to give. At least that was kind of my motivation of, what do I, create in this world, and why is this work meaningful? And this idea that we are not settling down, but really aiming for, a relationship that accelerates. For me, that's, yeah, mm, it's a motivation for me to continue working.
That's great. What would you say is your what's fueling your acceleration, either personally or in your work these days? Anything stand out?
What is fueling my inspiration these days?
Yeah. Is there something like that you're really studying or researching or exploring, either for yourself or as anything that affects you obviously will affect your clients, but also just for the benefit of the people that you work with? Because you mentioned earlier, it's an evolutionary process for you as well.
Totally, totally. Um, So last year was centered around conscious conception and fertility, and our shared friend Victoria Rose introduced that us.
Nice.
And interestingly, this year for me it was, so to say, the other portal that we explore as humans. So this year, as I shared, one of my grandmas passed away. I had other family members passing away, and there's a lot of let's say goodbyes in the field, and it's really a learning ground to explore what does it mean for the living to also learn how to grieve, and to really honor every relationship, because there's something um, to be learned from, and to be given to them before they pass. That was really an inspiring winter, and that was something I went deep in. At the same time, last November, I decided to put the last 6 years of Modern Couples into a book. And so, for my own mental health, also, right, and for my own, you know, what do we do in the age of AI? I feel it's like that is really inspiring me, exploring the art of storytelling and writing, and doing that with my brain, and also, make decisions around where do I use AI or not. And at the same time, with AI on the rise, and with many things, they are changing also for relationships. Um, I would say I'm also very, at the moment, trying to adapt, like, what do we need to change, or how do we need to adapt the program for modern couples. Those are things that inspire me and keep me writing. And um, so where I look at, let's say, the couple as also safety ground for the future fit couple, kind of. And on a personal level, the couple as longevity system, where I look at how do we stay really young and fit and healthy together. I have multiple topics. I hope I didn't explode, like, didn't
No, that's awesome.
mention too
Actually,
many things, but yeah,
that's
they are
perfect.
all fueling the book.
We'll definitely have to have you back on if you're up for it when your book comes out.
I would
Yeah, I
love
know
that.
you're on social media, so where can like I know you're on Instagram. I think you're on Twitter as well. Where can people find out more about your offerings and your thinking and your work, and keep track of all the cool things you're up to these days?
Yeah, so best way to find me is my website, www.modern-couples.com. And there I have really all my offerings, relationship health test, and all of that. It also links to my Substack. So at the moment, I'm more active on Substack, and it really has to do with, okay, what's happening in social media, less Instagram, more long form content, and writing. So that will be the best places to stay up to date. But yes, I'm also on X, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, for the professional world to find.
Oh, definitely make sure we include all the links in the show notes, especially your main website and Substacks. Maybe people can read your long form content. Michelle, this has been great. Enjoyed this conversation, and definitely want to encourage folks to check out your work. Whether you're the 20% who recognize, like, hey, we're doing okay, we want to do great, go talk to Marcella, or the 80% like things are a problem, we want to improve upon these problems. Good, go talk to Marcella. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.